Captain Elena Vasquez stood on the bridge of the UES Constellation, watching the massive gas giant slowly rotate on the main screen. The planet was beautiful, with swirling bands of blue and gold clouds that danced around its surface. But it was not the planet that caught her attention. It was the thing floating next to it. "Dr. Chen, what do you make of that structure?" she asked, pointing at the strange object on the screen. Dr. James Chen looked up from his computer and squinted at the display. The object was clearly not natural. It was made of smooth, dark metal that reflected the light from the distant star. The structure was long and curved, like a giant snake floating in space. Strange symbols covered its surface, glowing with a soft blue light. "It's definitely artificial, Captain," Dr. Chen said. "I've never seen anything like it. The metal doesn't match any known materials from Earth or our colonies." The constellation had been traveling through space for 6 months looking for new worlds and new life. This was humanity's first big trip to explore the far reaches of space. Elena and her crew of 45 people were excited to discover new things, but they had not expected to find something like this. "How old do you think it is?" Elena asked. Dr. Chen ran some tests on his computer. "Based on the radiation patterns and the way space dust has settled on it, I'd say it's been here for thousands of years, maybe longer." Elena felt a chill run down her spine. This was first contact with alien technology. Even if the aliens were long gone, this was still the most important discovery in human history. "Run a passive scan," she ordered. "I want to know everything about that structure, but don't do anything that might damage it or trigger any defensive systems." The ship's sensors began their work. Data flowed across the screens as they learned more about the mysterious object. It was huge, almost 2 kilometers long. The metal was some kind of advanced alloy that their computers couldn't identify. And, deep inside the structure, something was still working. "Captain, I'm getting some kind of energy signature," said Lieutenant Maria Santos from the sensor station. "There's still power running through parts of that thing." Elena nodded. "Any signs of life?" "No biological readings, but there are active computer systems inside." Suddenly, the structure began to glow brighter. The blue symbols on its surface pulsed in a steady rhythm like a heartbeat. Everyone on the bridge watched in amazement as beams of light shot out from the alien structure toward their ship. "Shields up," Elena ordered, but Dr. Chen held up his hand. "Wait, Captain. Those aren't weapons. It's some kind of communication beam." The beams touched the constellation gently, and immediately the ship's computers began receiving data. Numbers and symbols flowed across every screen on the bridge. Dr. Chen worked quickly to understand what they were seeing. "It's mathematics," he said excitedly. "Prime numbers, geometric shapes, basic physics equations. This is a greeting protocol." Elena smiled. The aliens, whoever they were, had built their first message to be something any intelligent species could understand. Mathematics was universal. "Can we respond?" she asked. "I think so. Let me send back our own mathematical sequence." Dr. Chen typed commands into his computer, and the constellation sent its own beam of light back to the alien structure. They transmitted the first 100 prime numbers, followed by some basic mathematical equations that showed humanity understood math and physics. The alien structure responded immediately. This time, the data was more complex. Images began to appear on their screens. They saw star maps, showing the location of the structure in the galaxy. They saw images of alien beings, tall, thin creatures with 4 arms and large eyes that glowed with intelligence. "My God," whispered Dr. Chen. "This is their history." The images told a story. The aliens called themselves the Ethon Collective. They had built a great civilization across many star systems. They were peaceful explorers and scientists, much like humanity hoped to be. The images showed their beautiful cities, their advanced technology, and their art. But then the images changed. They showed war, dark ships attacking Ethon worlds, cities burning, the proud Ethon fleet fighting desperately against an enemy that seemed to come from everywhere at once. They called their enemies the Devourers, Dr. Chen said as he translated more of the alien text. Something that consumed entire civilizations. The final images were sad. The last Ethon survivors, hiding their knowledge in structures like this one, hoping that someday another species would find them and learn from their mistakes. They included warnings about the devourers and information about hidden defensive systems they had built. Elena felt honored that humanity had been chosen to receive this message. But she also felt worried. If the devourers were still out there, humanity might be in danger. "Captain," Lieutenant Santos called out urgently, "I'm detecting hyperspace signatures. Multiple ships approaching our position." Elena's heart began to beat faster. "How many?" "7 ships, unknown design. They're big, Captain. Each one is about the size of our ship." "Battle stations," Elena ordered, but she hoped they wouldn't need to fight. "Try to hail them on all frequencies." The unknown ships dropped, out of hyperspace in perfect formation. They were unlike anything humans had ever seen. The ships looked almost alive, with smooth, curved hulls that seemed to pulse with their own light. They were beautiful and terrifying at the same time. "This is Captain Elena Vasquez of the Earthship Constellation," she broadcast. "We come in peace. Please respond." For several long minutes there was no answer. The alien ships moved closer, surrounding the constellation. Their sensors began scanning the human ship with increasing intensity. Finally, a voice came through, the communication system. It was translated by the ship's computers, but Elena could tell it belonged to something that was definitely not human. "Human vessel," the voice said coldly. "You will remain in position. Do not attempt to flee. You are being evaluated." Elena looked at Dr. Chen, who was still working to decode more of the Ethon messages. His face had gone pale. "Captain," he whispered, "I think I found something important in the Ethon records. These new ships, I think they might be the devourers." Elena felt ice in her stomach. The ancient aliens had left their warning just in time. Humanity had stumbled into something much bigger and more dangerous than they had ever imagined. "Continue translation, Doctor," she said quietly, "and prepare a message pod with everything we've learned. If things go badly, Earth needs to know what we've discovered." The alien ships moved closer, their sensors probing every inch of the constellation. Elena could only hope that humanity's first contact with living aliens would not also be their last. The alien voice came through the speakers again, clearer this time. "Human vessel, this is Commander Zexthul of the Kethvar Dominion. You will prepare to be boarded for inspection." Captain Elena Vasquez gripped the arms of her chair. "Commander Zexthul, we are peaceful explorers from Earth. We mean no harm to you or your people. We were simply studying the ancient structure in this system." "We are aware of your activities," Zexthul replied. "The Kethvar Dominion has been watching your species since you achieved faster than light travel 6 months ago. Your first explorations were acceptable, but this contact with Ethon technology requires evaluation." Elena felt her blood run cold. They had been watched this whole time. Humanity thought they were alone in their corner of the galaxy, but these aliens had been studying them like insects under a microscope. "What do you want from us?" she asked. "You will submit to a cultural examination. We must determine if your species is suitable for continued existence." Dr. Chen looked up from his computer with fear in his eyes. He had been working frantically to translate more of the Ethon records. "Captain," he whispered, "I need to tell you something important." Elena muted the communication channel. "What is it, Doctor?" "The Ethon records. They explain what really happened to them. The Devourers weren't some mysterious enemy from unknown space. They were the Kethvar." Elena felt the world spin around her. "Are you sure?" "The symbols match perfectly. The Kethvar destroyed the Ethon Collective not because the Ethon were aggressive or dangerous, but because they were becoming too advanced. The Kethvar couldn't allow any civilization to surpass their technology. So they killed them all? Every last one. The Ethon called them Devourers because the Kethvar don't just conquer civilizations, they completely erase them. No survivors, no trace left behind." Elena opened the communication channel again. Her voice was steady, but inside, she was terrified. Commander Zexthul, we appreciate your interest in our species, but we prefer to handle our own development. Perhaps we could establish formal diplomatic relations instead. There was a pause, then something that might have been laughter. You misunderstand your situation, human. Your species is barely 200 years into industrialization. You have existed in space for less than one of your centuries. You do not negotiate with the Kethvar Dominion. You submit to evaluation, or you are eliminated. Elena looked around her bridge. Her crew was scared, but they were ready to follow her lead. These were good people. Scientists, explorers, dreamers who had signed up to discover new worlds and make contact with alien life. None of them had expected to face extinction on their first day of contact. What does this evaluation involve? She asked. You will allow our scanners full access to your ship's databases and the minds of your crew. We will learn everything about your species, your history, your technology, your military capabilities, the location of your homeworld, your colonies, everything. And if we refuse, then you will be classified as a threat to galactic order and dealt with accordingly. Elena muted the channel again. Options? She asked her crew. Lieutenant Santos spoke first. Our weapons are no match for 7 of their ships, Captain. Our shields might hold for a few minutes if we're lucky. Dr. Chen, anything else in those Ethon records that might help us? Dr. Chen was typing furiously. Maybe. The Ethon left more than just history in their archives. There are references to hidden systems, defensive protocols, even coordinates to something. But I need more time to decode it. Elena reopened the channel. Commander Zexthul, we need time to prepare our ship for your inspection. There are sensitive scientific instruments that need to be properly shut down. You have one of your hours, Zexthul replied. Do not attempt to flee. Our ships are faster than yours. Elena closed the channel and turned to Dr. Chen. 1 hour, Doctor. Find us a way out of this. Dr. Chen nodded and bent over his computer. The rest of the crew worked to prepare the ship, but Elena could see the hopelessness in their faces. They were trapped. As the hour passed, Dr. Chen made breakthrough after breakthrough in translating the Ethan records. The ancient aliens had been incredibly clever. They knew that any species worthy of their knowledge would have to prove themselves by resisting the Kethvar. The artifact wasn't just a historical archive. It was a test. Captain, Dr. Chen said excitedly. I found something. The Ethon didn't just leave warnings. They left a gift for any species brave enough to stand up to the Kethvar. These coordinates lead to, I'm not sure what, but the Ethan called it hope for the worthy. How far away? 3 weeks at maximum hyperspace speed from Earth. Elena made a decision that would change everything for humanity. Send those coordinates to Earth on a tight beam transmission, maximum encryption. If we don't make it home, maybe someone else can find whatever the Ethon left behind. Transmission sent, Captain. The hour was up. Commander Zexthul's voice came through the speakers again. Human vessel, prepare to be scanned. Lower your shields and open all computer systems. Elena stood up straight. No. Repeat your response, human. I said no. We will not submit to your invasion of our privacy. We will not reveal the location of our homeworld to a species that destroys civilizations for the crime of advancement. We are a free people and we choose to remain free. This time, Elena was sure she heard anger in Zexthul's voice. Then you choose extinction. All ships, prepare to disable the human vessel. Take them alive for deeper examination. Elena looked at her crew one last time. They were afraid, but they were proud. Red alert. All hands to battle stations. The Kethvar ships moved closer, energy weapons charging. Elena knew they had no chance of winning, but she also knew they had to try. Humanity's first contact with alien life would not be a surrender. Dr. Chen, she said, keep working on those translations. If we're going to die, let's at least learn everything we can about our enemies. The first energy beams struck their shields and the constellation shook like a toy in a storm. But Elena smiled grimly. The transmission to Earth was already racing through space at faster than light speed. Whatever happened here, humanity would know the truth about the Kethvar. Dominion. The battle for humanity's freedom had begun. The constellation's shields flared bright blue as HFY energy weapons hammered against them. Captain Elena Vasquez held onto her chair as the ship shook violently. Sparks flew from damaged control panels, and the lights flickered on and off. Shields. Down to 60%, Lieutenant Santos shouted over the noise. They're not trying to destroy us, Captain. They're using some kind of disabling weapon. Elena understood. The HFY wanted them alive for questioning. That was both good and bad news. Good because they might survive the next few minutes. Bad because whatever the HFY had planned for them was probably worse than a quick death. Return fire, Elena ordered. Target their weapon systems. The constellation's particle beams lanced out toward the nearest HFY ship. The beams struck the alien vessel's shields, which absorbed the energy like it was nothing more than sunlight. The human weapons had no effect at all. No damage to their ships, Captain, Santos reported. Their shields are too strong. Dr. Chen continued working at his computer, even as the ship shook around him. Captain, I'm getting more from the Ethan database. They left detailed information about HFY tactics. The Dominion always follows the same pattern. First contact, evaluation, then either subjugation or elimination. Which one are we getting? Elena asked. Based on their behavior, elimination. The Ethan records say the HFY consider any species that reaches space within 2 centuries of industrialization to be dangerously rapid developers. We qualify. Another barrage of energy beams struck the constellation. This time, Elena felt the artificial gravity flicker. Emergency lights came on throughout the ship. Shields down to 30%, Santos called out. We can't take much more of this. Commander Zexthel's voice came through the communication system again. Surrender now, humans, and your deaths will be quick. Continue to resist, and we will take you apart piece by piece until you beg for mercy. Elena opened the channel. The only thing humans beg for is more time to fight our enemies. She heard what sounded like frustration in Zexthel's reply. Your species shows the same arrogance that destroyed the Ethan. You think your primitive weapons and stubborn attitude can stand against the might of the Dominion. You are wrong. Maybe, Elena said. But we're going to find out. The HFY ships changed their attack pattern. Instead of trying to disable the constellation with energy weapons, they began using some kind of scanning beam. The beam cut right through the ship's shields like they weren't even there. Elena felt a sharp pain in her head as the beam touched her mind. It was invasive, painful, like someone was digging through her thoughts with sharp tools. Around the bridge, her crew cried out as they felt the same violation. They're trying to scan our brains directly, Dr. Chen gasped, holding his head. Some kind of forced telepathic contact. Elena gritted her teeth against the pain. The alien presence in her mind was cold and calculating. She could feel it searching for information about Earth, about humanity's defenses, about their technology. But something strange was happening. The presence couldn't get very deep into her thoughts. It's not working, she heard one of the HFY voices say in the distance. Their mental defenses are too strong. Elena smiled through the pain. Humans had spent thousands of years learning to keep secrets, to lie, to hide their true thoughts. It seemed that experience was finally useful. The scanning beam intensified, and the pain in Elena's head became almost unbearable. But she held on, thinking about everything except Earth. She thought about her childhood dog, about her favorite foods, about old movies she had watched. Anything except the location of humanity's homeworld. Dr. Chen managed to keep working even under the mental assault. Captain, he said through clenched teeth, I found the final Ethan message. Coordinates to something they called the Last Hope. It's hidden in a place the HFY never found. Can you transmit it? Already did. Sent it to Earth on the same frequency as our first message. The mental scanning suddenly stopped. Elena gasped with relief as the alien presence left her mind. Commander Zextel sounded angry when he spoke again. Impossible. Your species should not have the mental discipline to resist our scans. You are more dangerous than we calculated. Elena wiped blood from her nose. The forced scan had caused physical damage, but it had failed to get the information the HFY wanted. Looks like you underestimated humans, Commander. No matter. We will take you to our interrogation facilities. There are other ways to extract information from primitive minds. The HFY ships moved into a capture formation around the constellation. Energy nets began extending from their hulls, preparing to trap the human ship. Dr. Chen looked up from his computer with excitement in his eyes. Captain, I found something else in the Ethon database. This isn't just an archive. It's a testing system. The Ethon wanted to make sure that only species worthy of their knowledge would find it. What kind of test? The test is resistance to the HFY. Any species that stood up to the Dominion would prove they had the courage to handle advanced technology responsibly. Elena understood. So by fighting back, we passed their test? Exactly. And look at this. Dr. Chen showed her his screen. The Ethon artifact was beginning to change. New systems were coming online, systems that had been hidden for thousands of years. Suddenly, the ancient alien structure erupted with light. Weapons that had been sleeping for millennia powered up and began targeting the HFY ships. The Ethon had built their archive as more than just a library. It was also a fortress. Powerful energy beams lanced out from the artifact, striking the nearest HFY vessel. The alien ship's shields collapsed instantly, and explosions rippled across its hull. What is happening? Zexthol's voice was filled with shock and fear. Elena smiled. It looks like the Ethon left a surprise for anyone who tried to hurt their visitors. The HFY ships scattered, trying to avoid the ancient weapons. But the Ethon systems were incredibly advanced. Every shot found its target, and 2 more HFY vessels were badly damaged. Captain, Dr. Chen said urgently, I'm getting new data from the artifact. It's downloading something into our computers. Coordinates, technical specifications, and a message. Elena read the message on her screen. It was simple and direct. For the worthy who resist tyranny, seek the archive. Your reward awaits. The HFY ships regrouped and began firing on the Ethon artifact, trying to destroy it before it could cause more damage. But the ancient structure's shields were incredibly strong. It had been built to survive anything the HFY could throw at it. All human vessel, came a new transmission from the artifact. The voice was artificial, but somehow warm. You have proven worthy of Ethon knowledge. Flee now while our defenses hold. Seek the coordinates we have given you. The future of your species depends on what you find there. Elena didn't hesitate. Lieutenant Santos, get us out of here. Maximum hyperspace speed. Where to, Captain? Elena looked at the coordinates the Ethon had given them. They led to a region of space far from Earth, far from the HFY, far from anything humanity had ever explored. Set course for those coordinates, she ordered. It's time to see what the Ethon left for us. The constellation jumped to hyperspace just as more HFY ships arrived in the system. Elena watched the battle between ancient Ethon defenses and modern HFY warships fade into the distance. Humanity had survived their first contact with hostile aliens, but Elena knew this was just the beginning. The HFY would not forget this defeat, and they would not stop hunting for Earth. Humanity needed whatever the Ethon had hidden at those coordinates. Their species' survival depended on it. Admiral Sarah Chen stood in the command center of Earth Space Command, staring at the message that had just arrived from deep space. Her brother James was missing, possibly dead, and humanity faced a threat unlike anything they had ever imagined. How long ago did we receive this transmission, she asked. 18 hours, Admiral, replied Colonel Martinez, her chief of staff. The message traveled for 3 weeks to reach us. By now, the constellation could be anything, Sarah finished. She refused to believe her brother was dead. James was smart and resourceful. If anyone could survive first contact with hostile aliens, it was him. The message contained everything the constellation had learned about the HFY Dominion and the ancient Ethon civilization. It also included coordinates to something the Ethon called the Archive, humanity's possible salvation. President Maria Santos entered the command center, followed by the heads of Earth's military forces. Her face was grave. Admiral Chen, I've read the reports. How bad is our situation? Sarah pulled up a holographic display showing Earth and its 12 colonies. If the Kethvar find us, we're finished. According to the Ethon records, the Dominion has destroyed hundreds of civilizations. They have thousands of ships and technology far beyond ours. What about our defenses? Asked General Williams, head of Earth's Planetary Defense Force. Our best warships would last maybe 5 minutes against a single Kethvar vessel, Sarah replied honestly. We have 60 ships in our entire fleet. They have thousands. President Santos studied the coordinates from the Ethon message. What do we know about this archive location? Nothing, except that it's 3 weeks away at maximum hyperspace speed. The Ethon seemed to think it contained something that could help us. Could be a trap, suggested Colonel Martinez. Sarah shook her head. The Ethon fought the Kethvar for hundreds of years. If they wanted to hurt us, they would have just let the Dominion destroy my brother's ship. No, they're trying to help us. President Santos made her decision. Admiral Chen, I'm authorizing you to take our most advanced ship to investigate these coordinates, but I'm not sending you alone. Sarah raised an eyebrow. Ma'am? Take the Defiance, and take everything we've learned about the Kethvar with you. If this archive contains advanced technology, we need to be ready to use it. The UES Defiance was humanity's newest and most powerful warship. Unlike exploration vessels like the Constellation, the Defiance was built for war. It carried the most advanced weapons Earth could build, quantum armor that could absorb massive amounts of energy, and a crew trained for combat. 3 days later, Sarah stood on the bridge of the Defiance as it prepared to leave Earth orbit. Her crew of 200 included the best soldiers, scientists, and engineers humanity had to offer. Among them was Dr. Yuki Tanaka, Earth's leading expert in alien technology. All stations report ready, Admiral, called Captain Torres, the Defiance's commanding officer. Take us out, Captain. Maximum speed to the coordinates. The Defiance jumped to hyperspace, racing toward the unknown. For 3 weeks, the crew prepared for anything. They studied every piece of information about the Kethvar, practiced battle drills, and tried to imagine what they might find at the archive. Dr. Tanaka spent most of her time analyzing the Ethon data. It's incredible, she told Sarah one day. The Ethon were at least 1,000 years ahead of us technologically. Their mathematics, their physics, their engineering, it's all far beyond anything we've achieved. But they still lost to the Kethvar, Sarah pointed out. They lost because they were peaceful. The Ethon never expected to face an enemy that would completely destroy them just for being advanced. They were scientists and explorers, not warriors. Like my brother's crew. Exactly. But we're different. Humans have always been fighters, when we need to be. When they finally arrived at the coordinates, Sarah was amazed by what they found. Space itself seemed to be twisted into a knot, with stars and planets visible inside what looked like a giant bubble floating in the void. It's a pocket dimension, Dr. Tanaka explained. The Ethon created a separate space to hide something important. Can we get inside? I think so. The Ethon database includes access codes. The Defiance entered the pocket dimension carefully. Inside, they found something that took Sarah's breath away. Floating in the center of the bubble was a massive space station, bigger than any human city. It was beautiful, made of the same dark metal as the artifact the Constellation had found. But this structure was intact and fully operational. Admiral, called Lieutenant Park from the sensor station. I'm detecting massive energy sources inside that station. Whatever it is, it's still fully powered. As they approached, beams of light reached out from the station and scanned the Defiance. But these beams were gentle, welcoming, not like the aggressive scans of the Kethvar. A voice spoke to them, translated by their computers. Welcome, humans. I am the Archive, guardian of Ethon knowledge. Your species has proven worthy by resisting the Kethvar Dominion. I have been waiting for you. Sarah opened communications. Archive, I am Admiral Sarah Chen of Earth. We seek help against the Kethvar threat to our people. I understand your need, Admiral Chen. The Kethvar Dominion has grown stronger since they destroyed my creators. They now threatened to dominate this entire region of the galaxy. The archive invited them inside. Sarah took a small team, including Dr. Tanaka, to explore the alien station. What they found was beyond their wildest dreams. The archive contained the complete scientific and technological knowledge of the Ethan civilization. "This is incredible," Dr. Tanaka whispered as they walked through halls filled with holographic displays. "They have the secrets of faster-than-light communication, matter conversion, energy shields that can stop anything, weapons that could destroy entire fleets." But the archive explained there was a price. The Ethan learned too late that advanced technology without wisdom leads to destruction. "I will not give weapons to a species that might become the next HFY dominion." "What do you want from us?" Sarah asked. "Proof that humanity uses power to protect, not to dominate. The HFY destroyed the Ethan because they feared our advancement. Show me that you are different." Suddenly, alarms began sounding throughout the archive. "Admiral Chen, long-range sensors detect a large HFY fleet approaching your home system. They have traced your communication signals." Sarah felt ice in her stomach. "How long do we have?" "At their current speed, they will reach Earth in 6 days." Sarah made the hardest decision of her life. She could stay at the archive and try to convince it to give them advanced weapons, or she could return to Earth and fight with what they had, knowing it probably meant the destruction of humanity. But then she remembered something from the Ethan records. The archive wasn't just a library. It was also a test. The Ethan had hidden their knowledge here, waiting for a species that would prove worthy not just by resisting the HFY, but by making the right choices. "Dr. Tanaka," she said, "download everything you can about defensive technologies. Archive, give us what we need to protect our people, not to conquer others." "A wise choice, Admiral. But there is one more test. Your brother's ship, the Constellation, was captured by the HFY. They are using his crew for experiments trying to learn about human psychology and Earth's location." Sarah's hands clenched into fists. "Where are they?" 2 days from here. The HFY fleet holding them is the same one heading toward Earth. Save your people, Admiral Chen, and I will know that humanity deserves the full knowledge of the Ethan." Sarah understood. This was the final test. She had to choose between the safety of her brother and his crew, or racing back to defend Earth. But as she thought about it, she realized there might be a third option. "Archive, can your defensive systems help us? If you prove worthy, yes. But remember, Admiral, the true test is not how you use power against your enemies, but how you treat them when they are helpless." Sarah nodded. She was beginning to understand what the Ethan had learned too late. Advanced technology was useless without the wisdom to use it responsibly. "Captain Torres," she called over her communicator, "prepare the ship for combat. We're going to rescue the Constellation crew." "And then, Admiral?" Sarah looked at the archive's holographic displays, showing the vast knowledge of a civilization that had reached for the stars and been cut down by fear and jealousy. "Then we save Earth, and we make sure this never happens to any other species again." Admiral Sarah Chen stood on the bridge of the Defiance as it approached the HFY fleet. Through the main screen, she could see the captured Constellation floating helplessly in the center of 7 alien warships. Her brother and his crew had been prisoners for over a month. "Dr. Tanaka, status report on the archive's gifts?" Dr. Tanaka looked up from her computer, excitement in her eyes. "The stealth technology is working perfectly, Admiral. The HFY can't see us coming, and the shield upgrades are incredible. We should be able to take at least 10 times more damage than before." "What about weapons? The archive gave us defensive technology only. No new weapon systems." Sarah nodded. The archive was still testing them, still waiting to see if humanity would prove worthy of the Ethan's full knowledge. She understood that how they handled this rescue mission would determine the future of both species. "Captain Torres, take us in closer. I want to see what condition the Constellation is in." As they moved nearer, Sarah could see the damage to her brother's ship. The hull was scarred by energy weapons, and several sections had been cut open by the HFY. She tried not to think about what they might have done to the crew. "I'm detecting life signs aboard the Constellation," reported Lieutenant Park. 43 humans all alive but showing signs of stress and injury. Sarah felt relief wash over her. James was still alive. They all were. "Admiral," Dr. Tanaka called urgently. "I'm picking up something strange. The archive's sensors show automated defense systems activating all around us. HFY defenses? No, these are much older, Ethan technology." Suddenly, space around them filled with light. Ancient Ethan ships began materializing out of nowhere, hundreds of them, all automated and hostile. They began attacking everything in the area, including both the HFY fleet and the Defiance. "What's happening?" Captain Torres shouted as the ship shook under enemy fire. Dr. Tanaka worked frantically at her station. "It's the archive's final test. The automated ships are attacking everyone to see how we respond. Do we protect only ourselves or do we protect others too?" Sarah watched as ethon energy beams struck the HFY ships. The alien vessels were returning fire, but they were also trying to protect the constellation. The HFY needed their human prisoners alive for interrogation. Commander Zexthol's voice came through their communication system. "Unknown human vessel, we detect you in this area. These ancient weapons are targeting all ships. We propose a temporary ceasefire to deal with this threat." Sarah looked at her crew. Every face showed the same thought. This was their chance. The HFY were vulnerable, distracted by the ethon attack. They could use this opportunity to rescue the constellation and escape. But then she remembered the archive's words. "The true test is not how you use power against your enemies, but how you treat them when they are helpless." She made her decision. "Commander Zexthul, we accept your ceasefire. Defiance to all ships. Coordinate your defensive fire. Protect the damaged vessels first." "Admiral," Captain Torres protested, "this is our chance to defeat them." "No, Captain. This is our chance to prove we're better than them." The Defiance moved to protect a badly damaged HFY destroyer that was being overwhelmed by Ethan automated ships. Sarah's crew fired on the ancient attackers, saving their enemies from destruction. Commander Zexthol's voice carried surprise and confusion. "Why do you protect us, humans? We are your enemies." "Because it's the right thing to do," Sarah replied simply. The battle raged for 20 minutes. Sarah's ship worked alongside the HFY fleet, protecting each other from the relentless ethon attacks. When a HFY ship lost shields, the Defiance covered them. When the Defiance was surrounded, HFY vessels provided support fire. Finally, the ancient weapons stopped firing. The automated ships faded away like ghosts, returning to whatever hidden dimension had concealed them. In the sudden silence, the mixed fleet of human and HFY vessels floated together in space. The archive's voice reached them all. "The test is complete. Humanity has proven worthy." Commander Zexthul spoke first. "Human Admiral, your actions have confused me. By all HFY doctrine, you should have used our weakness to destroy us. Instead, you protected us. Why?" Sarah thought carefully before answering. "Because destroying others to protect ourselves just creates more enemies. We believe there's a better way. Even after what we have done to your people? Even then? We don't have to be friends, Commander, but we don't have to be enemies either." The archive's voice came again, addressing all ships. "For 10,000 years I have waited for a species that could learn what the Ethon learned too late. The HFY Dominion maintains power through fear and destruction. But true strength comes from cooperation and protection of others. Human. Admiral Chen, your species has proven worthy of full Ethon knowledge. The coordinates to our complete technological database are being transmitted to your ship." Sarah felt the weight of responsibility settle on her shoulders. Advanced technology that could transform humanity was now theirs to use wisely. "Commander Zexthul," the archive continued, "your people have a choice. Continue the old ways of domination and eventually face rebellion from every species in the galaxy. Or learn from today's example and build something better." There was a long pause before Zexthul responded. "I must think on this. My beliefs about lesser species have been challenged today." Sarah seized the opportunity. "Commander, release the Constellation crew. and we'll consider today a new beginning between our species. Another pause. Agreed. Your people will be returned unharmed. And Admiral Chen, perhaps we will speak again someday. The constellation was released and allowed to dock with the Defiance. Sarah rushed to the docking bay to greet her brother. James looked tired and beaten, but he was alive and smiling. I knew you'd come, he said as she hugged him. I had help, Sarah replied, looking back toward the archive. The Ethan left us more than just technology, James. They left us a choice about what kind of species we want to be. Dr. Tanaka approached with her computer full of new data. Admiral, the archive has given us everything: faster-than-light communication, advanced manufacturing, medical technology that could eliminate disease, energy systems that could power our entire civilization. And the weapons? Sarah asked. Defensive systems only for now. The archive says we'll earn access to more advanced systems as we prove we can use them responsibly. Sarah nodded. It was exactly what humanity needed: power, but with the wisdom to use it well. 6 months later, Sarah stood on the bridge of the New Earth Defense Station, watching HFY ships approach Earth. But these weren't invasion fleets. They were diplomatic vessels led by Commander Zexthul, who had convinced a faction of his people to try a different path. The galaxy was changing. The HFY Dominion was splitting apart as some worlds chose cooperation over domination. New alliances were forming between species that had never been allowed to develop before, and at the center of it all was humanity, using Ethon technology not to conquer but to protect. Earth's new defensive fleet was stationed throughout human space, but their mission had expanded beyond defending just humanity. They served as peacekeepers, protecting younger civilizations from those who would destroy them for being different. Dr. Chen's voice came over the communication system from the research station they had built around the archive. Sarah, we've made another breakthrough. The Ethon left us the blueprints for something called sanctuary worlds, protected systems where developing species can grow without fear. Sarah smiled. The Ethon had given humanity a great gift, but more importantly, they had shown them how to use it. Not as conquerors or dominators, but as guardians and protectors. The second scan had indeed crossed a line, but instead of ending with humanity's destruction, it had led to something better. A galaxy where species could grow and develop without fear, where differences were celebrated instead of destroyed, and where the strong protected the weak instead of consuming them. The Dreadnought had shown its claws, but those claws were extended not in aggression, but in protection, and throughout the galaxy, young civilizations looked up at the stars with hope instead of fear, knowing that someone was watching over them. The age of the Devourers was ending. The age of the Protectors had begun.